Well, good evening, everyone. So glad to have you join us again this evening for this night of Is There a Doctor in the House? We're excited because this is going to be a presentation that I know is going to be a blessing to many. We've got folks who are here, we've got some who are still coming, and we have some who are watching online. We want to welcome all of you, and I pray this evening that what you hear and what you experience will make a tremendous difference in your life. We're going to begin tonight with a word of prayer, and I invite you to just bow your heads where you are as we pray. Gracious God, we thank you for your love and mercy. We thank you, Lord, for the ministry of healing, that you desire of all things that we prosper and be in health. And so, Lord, this evening I pray that as we open this meeting with Is There a Doctor in the House, this seminar, I pray for your presence. May your spirit abide with us. For we know that Jesus is the great physician, and indeed he is the doctor in the house. Bless us now. Tune our hearts and our minds to understand this incredible information that we're going to learn tonight. Be with our presenters and with all who are participating, both online and in person. I pray in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen. Well, we welcome you tonight, and we welcome our presenters, and we want to say welcome to all of you who are watching online. I know that this is going to be a tremendous experience for you. If you've got a chance, make sure you take some notes, get some information so that you can have this to carry with you throughout the oncoming weeks ahead as we seek to implement what you're learning tonight. Now, for those of you who were here last night, I was here, or yesterday afternoon, it was a tremendous experience. Indeed, we were blessed, and I learned so much. And tonight we're going to be dealing with the subject, is your heart about to attack you? And I hope that there's nobody here who's at that precipice where your heart is about to attack you, but if you are, you're at the right place tonight. And I know that God is going to move in a mighty way to give you, through our presenters, the right information. You know, my father always used to say, if we knew better, we would do better. And in a very real sense, Scripture teaches us that thy people perish for a lack of knowledge. And we're holding these seminar meetings this week because we want our people to be knowledgeable. And I just want to thank the team from Is There a Doctor in the House, with Dr. Palmer and the entire team who are here tonight and throughout this entire week for coming from miles away to be able to come and present this information here tonight. Now, for those of you who are here in the building physically, I want to invite you to come a little closer. In fact, tomorrow night, we're going to rope off the back few pews because we want to invite you to come up close. So those of you who are way in the back, hiding out and chilling, I want to invite you to come. I want everybody to come closer. Come on down. Come on down. I want nobody past the first 5 pews, all right? I want everybody to come closer so that we can be tight-knit as a group tonight. So everybody come up closer. Sister Goody, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right behind Sister Patricia. I want everybody to come up close so that we can be a close-knit group here tonight, and that could create greater learning. Amen? And interaction as well. All right, with no further ado, I'm going to turn the program over to our presenters, and we're going to begin with our theme song.
Good evening, everyone. So happy to see you, and our viewing audience, we praise God for you as well. And all of our folk are coming up now. We're going to do our theme song. And who was here last night? Amen. Well, some of you will learn our theme song for the first time tonight, and we're going to sing that together. So if you don't mind, if you could stand with us as we sing our theme song. The words are on the screen. Merry hearts do it good like a medicine. Here we go.
A merry heart do it good like a medicine. broken spirit dryeth the bones, but a broken spirit dryeth the bones. Merry heart, do it good like medicine. A merry heart, do it good like a medicine. Proverbs 17, verse 22, and chapter 15, verse 13. A merry heart, do it good like a medicine.
Amen. Thank you. Please be seated. All right. We're going to give some gifts away. And okay, where are the gifts? We want to find out who came from the farthest destination. Anybody drove 40 minutes to get here? Did you drive 40 minutes? Anybody? Okay. Who? Nobody? Can you raise your hand if you did? Who's Temple City? Oh. Okay. So you're getting a free gift? Okay, that's our CD from our Ten Commandments musical that has been aired on Hope Channel and 3ABN. All right, thank you for coming. They're dear friends. All right, anybody else? Any birthday or anyone? This month? Anybody have a birthday this month? All right, praise the Lord. All right, great. Thank you so much. Is that it? Okay, we're going to give some more gifts. Anybody married this year? Anybody? I won't say this, not online. I won't say it. Did you know what I was going to say? Probably. Okay. What else? What else can we? Who's the youngest person? Oh, I see a youngest person right there. Let's give one to the youngest person so the family gets it. Yeah, we usually do the oldest. Let's see. He already got one. No, you can't get another one.
No, wait, okay, who's the second oldest then? Okay, no, you don't know. Who's the eldest?
Her mom might.
Let's not say the old. The person that's the most senior among us, with the most experience in life.
Okay, 75, 80, 85, 90.
Wait a minute, who is
She's
70?
still not raising her hand. 88? Okay. Is 88 the highest? Okay. Mommy gets it. All right, Mommy, you got it. Thank you for coming. Okay. That's it. Thank you, everyone. More gifts tomorrow night, so try and bring some guests with you. And to those of you watching, please try and come. We'd love to see you. They came all the way from Tennessee and Alabama, from Reno, Nevada, and we came from here. So praise the Lord. God bless you. Have a wonderful evening.
Amen. All right. So we're so delighted that you can be joining us this evening. And for those online, we're also thrilled that you're with us. We want to just encourage you for the upcoming programs, just so you can know. Tomorrow we are going to be doing Can You Hear Me Now? And then Wednesday, Want to Drink. Sorry, that was Tuesday's Want to Drink, and Wednesday, Finding Life's Balance. There's nothing meeting on Thursday. On Friday, The God-Shaped Brain. And then next Sabbath, we're going to be doing Part 1 and Part 2. God Must Be Crazy in the morning, and in the afternoon, You Must Be Crazy. So, and there is a meal served on Sabbath, so let's just make it a wonderful day. And then on Sunday, there will be this amazing Thanksgiving vegan cuisine cooking class. And we have with us Dr. Peterson, who is in high demand. We do have also, just to let you know, her cookbook's going to be available, and it's amazing. And we also have, and I know she always gives away one gift, and there will be lots of gifts given away at the cooking class. It's going to be at 4 p.m. on Sunday afternoons, and then we get to eat it. And then we also have some other authors among us, and Dr. Magna Parks Porterfield. She's written so many books I've lost count, but she has a few of her latest books. Keys to Optimal Health. There's a book on depression. There's another book. What are the other books again, Magna? Okay, she says to stop there. All right. And so we will have those available again too for, you'll have something tangible. Also, at the end of each program, we do have or little notes from the program, some of the highlights, and we'll have them available each night. And we'll also have some of the ones that Dr. Parks, Porterfield, and and all of the other presenters. We'll try to get some of the key summary points into a handout. So we hope that you can plan to be here with us. And gifts, prizes that you're going to learn. So with that said, we are going to get started, and with the first, do it naturally. And Ron, we want to know what you had. Yesterday we learned to use other things for a potato. Oh, should I get our potato testimony? I'll let you do that. But anyways, we learned about the potato and how to use the potato in extra, what's the right word? Corporate, not just on the inside, but on the outside. So what do you have for us tonight?
Well, we're going to be taking a look at a couple things here. And, it's a blessing that God has given us some things that can help us right in our kitchen. We have a few, maybe all of us here tonight have a few things in your kitchen that can be of great benefit. The bad news is you may have some things in your kitchen that can do great harm, and we want to get rid of those. But the subject tonight is your heart attacking you, and we would hope not. How many of you are familiar with cayenne pepper? Maybe everyone, right? Yeah. Well, cayenne pepper it can be a wonderful thing. It can be an irritant if it's used in the wrong way, irritate the stomach nerves and all that type of thing. But it has the active ingredient capsicum, and that is the ingredient that does so much benefit. Is your heart attacking you? Well, I've known many cases where someone was having some angina, that's some heart pain, and they went and they took a little cayenne pepper, maybe about a quarter teaspoon, and mixed it with about a half a cup of water, stirred that around and drank it, and the pain went away immediately. And, that's good, but if that keeps happening over and over again, you don't want to just rely on cayenne pepper. It's always good to check out what is happening. We want to have a healthier lifestyle, make sure, you're eating the right foods, and see your doctor, make sure you're getting exercise and all that. So this can be a great benefit. As a matter of fact, I like to make cayenne pepper tinctures, and we keep that around our house. And so if we're ever feeling any discomfort, sometimes we'll just drop a little bit of that, and you'll feel immediate relief. People have had relief if they were having like a migraine headache or a headache. It helps to open up the blood vessels to clear the way so that, if you want to have good health, we have to have good circulation, and cayenne pepper is good for that. There again, you want to have a lifestyle that is conducive to having good circulation, plenty of water, all those other things that are going to be talked about. People who are challenged with diabetes, many times they're having loss of sensation in the lower extremities. Well, it's been shown that if you put just a little bit of cayenne pepper in some warm water, in a basin, that can help to bring back better circulation or better sensation. If you do just a warm foot bath with a little bit of cayenne pepper, it can help to bring back sensation. Now, if the person is having ulcers or anything like that, then we don't want to do that. From diabetes, sometimes people have those open sores. We don't want to do it in those cases. But okay, so that's just a little bit about the cayenne pepper. We're going to move on to onions. Now, onions, we love onions, right? They can make the food taste so good. So they're good on the inside, but they can do some wonders on the outside as well. Let's show you here real quick just how to do a onion poultice. And I'm going to put this down here just for a moment. Okay, thank you. All right, so now we're just going to, now an onion poultice can be beneficial for, some people have used them for small superficial tumors, lumps, bumps, those types of things. If you apply a onion poultice for that, it has been shown to cause that lump or that tumor to go away in just a few days or so. Now, there again, I'm talking about something somewhat superficial. I'm not talking about something that's more severe where you might end up seeing an oncologist or something like that, you see. So we want to do things, but we also want to be safe. Now, so I'll get just some paper towels here, and this is just one way to do it. One of the ways I like to use onion poultice quite a bit is for chest congestion. We have a friend that he was suffering from some chest congestion. You remember that he was having problems breathing. And I've done this for a few people, and I put an onion poultice on his chest, and the next morning he was breathing a lot better. And it's also good for relieving sinus congestion. You can, because of the nice smell that you're getting, and you just, oh yes, very strong smell, right? And so what we're going to do is, what I used to do is I used to slice it, and I used to put the rings on the chest, directly on the chest, and that worked fine. But I found another way to do it that I think is more beneficial. I mean, sometimes the rings would fall this way and that way. If you wrap it the right way, it doesn't necessarily have to happen, but I found another way I like better, and that is to grate the onion. I mean, you're going to get a little bit more juice that way. I'm not going to grate all of it, but you grate a good amount. And I think that'll be good. And all right. So what I would do then is, and you don't have to use a paper towel if you have old sheets or anything like that, old cotton that you're not using for much else, you can use that. And that can be very beneficial. And so I would grate more than that if I were going to apply it to the chest. But I think you'll get the idea. So I'm going to, so now you can see that's very juicy on that side there. So if I was going to apply it to the chest for someone who was having some problems breathing, some chest congestion, it would be much bigger than this. Yes, but I think you can get the idea. Just fold that up, and I would have the person to lie down on the bed, and I would apply that to the chest. You want to have it, like I said, big enough to cover the whole chest. And in this case, our friend, Mr. S, we'll call him, right? And what I did was just to take some of this, well, this or plastic wrap. This is a press and seal. And this sticks very, very well. And, well, okay. All right, so this is the time when I get to, oh no, that's something else. This is the time when I get to ask someone from the audience to come up and allow me to put onion on you. Please, don't be afraid. Step right up. Don't everyone move at once. It's okay. I'm sure you have showers. Please. Okay. This is being streamed. Oh, Sister Anna, thank you. What's that? Oh, you do. Thank you. Give Sister Anna a hearty amen for the soup and for coming up. All right. So let's say, Sister Anna, we're not dealing, because it's not on her chest, right? She has some lump or something here, or she wants to have reduced. So I'm going to here, and I will just apply that right to her wrist, just like that. I fold those back like that just to keep it secure so the onion doesn't come falling out. And thank you. And we'll make it nice and snug, not too tight. We want the circulation to be coming well. It doesn't feel good? Okay. So there we go. And so she can keep this on overnight. The one that I did for the gentleman on the chest, we did that. He went to bed. He slept with that overnight. And you can do that several nights, depending on what's going on. If we do that, and maybe you'll have to do it 2 or 3 nights, whatever, see what's happening with it, and then repeat. All right? So let me give you this too. And you just wash in the morning. Or you want to take that away,
Will
just so
this
you'll-
bring me a new husband? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, it might
the
scare them
something-
away. You know what? You know what? Actually, what it'll do is it'll scare the bad ones away, and it'll attract the
good
good
ones.
ones.
Okay.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
My grandfather, if I may,
Okay.
he would use the inside
Yes.
little skin right here. Cut himself once, I remember, and he taught me how to do this,
Very nice.
and then put a Band-Aid over it as well, and it helped heal a little faster.
Oh, look at that.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Very good.
Wise man.
Thank you. Oh, and you have for being a good,
Oh, thank you so
helpful.
much.
Yes, well, thank you. Also, this has been helpful in helping with earaches. Some people have taken a little slice and put it against you can wrap it in a bandage or something and apply that to your ear, and it can help to draw that inflammation. That's one of the things it does. It helps to draw inflammation, kill bacteria, and that type of thing. So I see a hand. I know we're supposed to be having questions at the end, right? Yeah. So we're having questions at the end. All right. So that's a bit with onion and cayenne pepper. Yes. Thank you.
Wasn't that good? Very good information. So the onions can be used in many different ways, as you see. I just want to thank Miss Anna. I know she went back out. She made that delicious lentil soup for us, the dal with the rice. How many of you had it and enjoyed it? Yeah, we're going to be blessed by, I don't know who else will do tomorrow evening, but thank you so much. It was very good. Yes. All right, so this evening we're going to continue on with Joy in the Kitchen and looking at some of the things that can be very beneficial. First of all, I don't know how many of you know that you can find your diet plan right in the book of Genesis. How many knows that? Genesis. It's in the book of Genesis 1:29, the original diet God intended for mankind. As he said, "See, I have given you every plant-yielding seed that is on the face of all of the land, and every tree which is seed in its fruit, you shall have that for food." And many today are going back to the original diet because we kind of wandered away after the flood in other areas. But it is important for us to follow. Nutrition is the key to good health. And many of us don't realize that we are what we eat. You and I are what we eat. So the things that we eat and consume in our bodies comes to end up making good cells for us, our heart cells, or our whole being. So if the doctor of today will not become the nutritionist of tomorrow, then the nutritionists of today will become the doctors of tomorrow. And now you're hearing a lot about what food is medicine. The 6 major nutrients are found in all of the foods that we eat, and they are carbohydrates, proteins, fats, vitamins, minerals, and water. And we'll discuss a little bit as we go down the line. Carbohydrates make tryptophan. It's more available to the brain, of course, and it helps us to do what? To be able to think better. Proteins from the food that we eat are the building blocks of tryptophan. And of course, fats tend to cushion the brain, and we do have also the need for fat-soluble vitamins. So if someone tells you you don't need any kind of fat in your diet, don't believe that. You do need some fat. It's the kind of fat that's important, the monounsaturated fats. Foods that provide energy, that's the carbohydrate foods. And those are the foods that are on the plate. You know, the government has asked us to eat on a plate. Half of it is fruits and vegetables, and the other half are grains and protein. So the energy we get from carbohydrates or the grain foods are very beneficial. Nuts and seeds are also important as we eat on a plate. Some good whole grain bread. I don't know how many of you, has any of you made bread? I'm sure I'm speaking to others who have made bread. It's very important for us to learn how to make a good loaf of bread. It can help save somebody's life. In fact, in our early days of teaching cooking classes, we would make loaves of bread and take them to our neighbors, and got a chance to be able to get into their home and share with them healthy eating. So a whole grain bread is always beneficial. Now the protein foods, this is the other part of the plate that we're talking about, that we're speaking on, protein foods. Protein foods are ones that will help, they are not just only building blocks, but they help us to repair our body tissues. So you have nuts and seeds, those are parts of the protein foods, that's in Genesis 1:29. Lentils, we had that this evening. So Miss Anna, you are part of what's here. You didn't realize. She's waving. Yep. So thank you so much again. The lentils are very good. Soybeans are also very beneficial. In fact, soybeans are known to be almost a perfect food. So it has all of the amino acids that's important for us, for our development. Some of you have had tofu. You just saw the area there. So the 3 nutrients that we have not to worry too much about, and sometimes we tend not to eat enough of those, are the vitamins, minerals, and water. They contain no calories. So now many of us who are trying to keep our weight down, we tend to say, you know, what shall I do to lose some weight? And we suggest get rid of a lot of those juices and substitute for what? For water. And if we can drink enough water, we have found that we can help individuals lose excess weight, body fat that they may have. Here are some of the foods that are rich in vitamins and minerals, and we showed some slides last night about the phytonutrients. So when you see the foods have these bright rainbow colors, red, oranges, purple, they are very beneficial for us because they can give us the nutrients that we need. Vitamin C, vitamin A, and all of those other vitamins that are very beneficial. We mentioned last night the amount of servings we should have is what? 5 servings of vegetables and 4 servings of fruit. A wide variety is definitely important because each of these different foods give you certain kinds of nutrients, so that you don't want to constantly eat the same food all the time. So we want the variety. When we do cooking classes, we always open to give something called a BMW, and all of you know about that car, BMW. We give a balance, moderation, and a wide variety. So you can't go without it, the BMW. Thank you so much. And we will talk some more again tomorrow about the doctor in the kitchen.
Thank you so much, Dr. Peterson. Now we are on to the Happiness Clinic with Dr. Magna Porterfield. Are you going to help those fussing kids?
Not tonight. You know, as you come out this week, you're going to be hearing about a lot of things. And you can hear, but the question is, I'll show you the question in a minute. No, we don't want to go that way to show you the question. What do you think about change? And there's been research to show that there are different stages of change. Sometimes you wonder why people are not changing, but maybe after hearing these stages, you'll understand that we're all at different places. So let's look at some of these different stages, and you can assess yourself. The first stage is pre-contemplation. When a person is contemplating something, that they're thinking about it, right? So this is the stage before they start to think about change. Most people in this stage, they're either underinformed or they're not informed. And some people in this stage, you might try to get them to make changes, but they're really not wanting to make change. Either they've been exposed to some information that's not correct, or they've been taught the wrong way. But sometimes when we're doing these types of seminars, people may want their husbands to come out to listen or their wives to come out to listen, but they're not interested in changing. So this is the pre-contemplation stage. This person might say something like, my spouse thinks I need to change, but I don't really want to change. So this is the first stage of change for people. And the next is, here we go, you're not thinking seriously about changing, you're not interested in it, and you try to defend your negative or your unhealthy behavior, and you get defensive if other people pressure you. You ever heard about or been exposed to people who would respond in that way? We have to be careful. The next stage is contemplation. This is the stage, and y'all are writing notes, but I'm also going to give this to Dr. Palmer. He's going to put this in a handout for you all too, right, Dr. Palmer? Yes. So if you missed some of it, you could get it in that as well. But this is the stage where people are ambivalent about change. They kind of want to change, but then they don't want to change. And that might be because they're not sure if the costs will outweigh or the benefits will outweigh the cost. Is it worth me getting up 5 o'clock in the morning instead of 6 o'clock in the morning for me to exercise? You know, they start to wonder if it's worth them doing that. And so they're ambivalent, and they may see that they need to change, but they question, as I said, if the long-term benefits of change will outweigh the cost. There are ways that you can help people like this, but I won't have the time in this short time we have, but there are ways that you can help. In fact, I have some things down here I could just share with you. You can have people weigh the pros and the cons. I do that sometimes in my work with people. I ask them, write down the pros of you changing and write down the negatives of you changing. And most of the time, when they see it on paper and they see that the pros outweigh the cons, it motivates them to want to make some decision about changing. Then there's the preparation and determination stage. This is where people start to say, I'm committed to make a change. You know, when pastors do altar calls and they ask you to come to the front, people who come to the front, many of them may be at this stage where they're saying, I'm committing to make a change. I want to give my heart to God, or I want to make some change in my life. And this is where you start to see some changing occurring, is where you make a commitment. Sorry how that came out small, I'm not sure. But it's considered the research phase, where you start to look up information. You may look on websites, you may talk to doctors, you may go to different organizations because you're getting ready to make a change. Oftentimes, people may skip this phase and they try to go too quickly to the next. They may mess up here because they don't do enough research, or they haven't fully accepted what it will take to make the changes they desire. I have a feeling that many of you all, because you've shown up to the seminar, might be at this preparation determination stage. And so you're here at this seminar, you're getting information, you're trying to determine what do I do to make this change. But we don't want you to stay at this stage. We want you to move to this next stage, the action willpower stage. This is where you're motivated to change and you actively take steps to change your negative or unhealthy behavior. So you want to get more of these foods that Dr. Peterson just talked about in your cupboard or in your refrigerator, and you say, the next time I go shopping, this is what I'm going to do. You're taking action. Or you want to start learning how to apply some of the remedies my husband is talking about, or Dr. Peterson or Dr. Palmer. This is where you start to make and write down or even plan in your mind, these are the things I'm going to do different. And I'm going to tell you, my dear brothers and sisters listening, if you don't do this stage, coming to this seminar will be in vain. And we don't want this seminar to be in vain for you. We're hoping that you're not just listening and getting good information, but that you will move to the action phase. This is when you're most open to receiving help. And if you are dealing with someone who's not at this phase and you want them to change, I implore you not to try to force them to get to the stage. That will not happen. Dr. Palmer gave a good example last night of him and his dear wife, Yolanda, and they were eating differently. He was vegetarian, she was vegan. She didn't force him to make that change. He went to that step himself, and that's what we have to do with our loved ones, all right? Maintenance phase it involves the ability to successfully avoid any temptation to return to the negative or unhealthy behavior. So if you have decided, I want to stop eating a particular food, you have to do what you can to make sure that you keep that going and you keep successfully avoiding that food or avoiding whatever negative behavior you're trying to get away from. In this stage, you acquire the skills to deal with life and to avoid relapse. My husband used to work at a lifestyle center, and many of them would come there for 18 days and they changed their eating habits and all of that, but then they go back home and they relapse. And so to prevent that, you have to think about what am I going to do when I get back home? What are the obstacles that I'm going to encounter? How can I get around those barriers? How can I get around these obstacles? And that will prevent you from relapsing. We don't want people to relapse. You are aware that what you are striving for is worthwhile and meaningful. So you want to get through and make sure you don't get to this stage. It's actually not a stage, but you're returning back to an earlier stage, and that's a relapse. But if you get here, it's okay. In Proverbs, we're told that a righteous man falleth 7 times but riseth again. So if you fall, don't feel that you have to stay down. God can give you the strength to get back up. And so I pray that you will look at each of these stages and say, Lord, what stage am I in, and how can I move to a next stage so I can have a healthier lifestyle? And you'll be your own doctor in the house by God's grace. God be with each of you.
Amen. Very practical counsel, would you say? Amen. Thank you so much, Dr. Porterfield. And now, it's a new part of the program. We didn't do it yesterday. We were having our Sabbath rest. But now we're going to ask Ron to come forward, and this is where we call the massage clinic. All right?
All right. So, it's been a long day. Maybe there's been some tension, or maybe you haven't had any tension. But still, a massage can help to create that good circulation, and good circulation is good for the heart. So is your heart attacking you? We hope not. But let's get some circulation going. Now, I'm going to ask if you all would choose a partner. And we're going to do a massage demonstration, a chair massage. And let me get this chair. And this is just a simple 10-minute chair massage that you can do at home. 5-minute chair massage. Okay. So this is a quickie. It's a quick one. All right. So everyone's looking at me, but I don't see anyone choosing a partner. Okay. Okay. You got partners? Everyone, you got your partner? All right. So I'm going to have my wife. She's going to come over here, and she's going to be my massage person, and she's going to hold the mic for me while she's doing that. We've never done this before, but we'll try to do that, okay? There you go. So have a seat right there. She says, how am I going to do that? Okay, you're going to do that like that. And after this, after holding this mic like this for a while, she's going to need an arm massage, but we'll do that later. All right, so the person that's going to be starting out, I'm going to ask you if you would stand up. I know it's kind of hard with these pews, but let's do the best you can, all right? All right, so you're going to stand up, and the first thing we're going to, all right, so this is, by the way, this is,
Yeah, just find someone next.
This is going to be, this is your hands-on. This is going to be your hands-on time. And so it's going to be a little challenging in the pews, but I'll try to make it as user-friendly as possible. All right, so here we go. You're going to stand up, and you... All right, so, yeah, because now they can't see. All right, so first we're going to start with hands on shoulders, and we're doing just light shoulder compression. That means that we're just kind of lightly pressing on the shoulders. And what we're doing is we're getting the person used to our touch. We're getting the person used to the touch. And right from the start, I'm going to ask you if you will use some good posture, you know. I'm talking about the person who's giving. We don't want to get to the point that otherwise we're going to need the massage pretty soon ourselves. And then from this compression, we're going to go into more of a kneading motion. If any of you ever made bread, thumb circles, a little bit of squeeze there with some circular thumb circles. You want to sort of knead into those tight shoulder muscles. All right, very good. And if you can feel some tension there, you can work that a little bit. Now, you always want to ask the person, how is the pressure? On a scale of 1 to 7, 7 is heavenly. 1 is you want the person who's giving you the massage to wake up and do a little more. 8 is, okay, just ease up a little bit. That's painful. 9 and so forth and so on. All right, so somewhere around a 6 or 7, that would be good, or you can work your way up. And then now what we want to do is to go from the shoulders, and we're going to work our way down the back on either side of the spine, but not on the spine. And we're going to do paraspinal compressions, just some light compression all the way down. All right, this is where you're going to need that good posture. You know, all right, we'll work our way down, all the way up. And then we get back to the top, and then we're going to do those thumb circles again on either side of the spine, working our way down. Good posture. By the way, those of you who are giving the massage, this is a good opportunity for you to get some exercise, you know, get those squats in, feel those leg muscles burning, keep that back straight, work those arms, all right? And then we work our way back up to the top here, and we're going to just do a little tapping right now. You know what? Oh, wait, that's not all. But you won't get this all tonight. So to get the rest of this routine, you're going to have to come back the rest of the week. All right? All right, so we're just going to leave you hanging out. Now what I want you to do is I want you to switch. So the person that was receiving, giving, all right? Go sit down. All right, have we switched? Okay, here we go. Switch, here we go. All right, here we go. So we're doing that. All right, we have some good students. Those that we're receiving, they know right how to start. Very good. Some people are getting A's already. Very good. Paying attention. So, all right, you're doing those light shoulder compressions. Right there, all right. Now we're going to do some light squeezing, those thumb circles, working that tension out of the shoulders. Ask them, work those thumb circles. All right. So the person, you want to ask them on a scale. Okay, now I see some of you folks are sitting down. What's going on? Now, the person who's giving, if you're sitting down, you don't have good leverage. So you can use your weight, all right? So thumb circles. And you want to ask the person on a scale of 1 to 7, what is the pressure on a scale of 1 to 7? So get that survey and ask them so that you can know where you are. What is that? Uh-oh, I got to back off. I got an 8. Oops. Sorry. Okay, no 8s. Okay, very good. Now, we're going to do those paraspinal compressions down the spine, on either side of the spine, but not on the spine. There again, you want to try to, do a little squat there if you can. Don't hurt yourself if you can, but just be good to your back. Work your way down. Work your way back up. Okay, I got a 7. How about you all? Don't be jealous. All right, here we go. And then a little, we got a little deportment back up here on the shoulders. And then that's it for now, all right? So we relieved a little bit of tension there. So how'd that feel? Excellent. So let me just say this to you. It gets better as the week goes on. So don't miss out.
Good evening. Refreshing, wasn't it? Keep coming back. You'll learn a little bit more. This evening, we're going to talk about something that I think is very, very important to all of us. Don't let the title mislead you. It says soul food, but it's really talking about hypertension, high blood pressure. How many of you know someone, or a relative, a friend, or associate who has high blood pressure? Raise your hand. I think everybody's hand should probably go up. And it's very important because so many people in our country and worldwide actually suffer from hypertension. But let's just give you a little brief history. During slavery in the U.S., people of African descent were given a diet that developed from cultural influences and necessity. Over succeeding centuries, many people of African descent in the south of the U.S. developed preferences for particular types of food and diet that was high in fried foods, some fish, a few vegetables, lots of fatty meats prepared with rich gravies. And oftentimes, this type of diet actually resulted in them developing high blood pressure or hypertension. This type of food is called soul food, okay? And it's popular among African Americans even to this very day. And it's more than just a type of cuisine. It's an integral part of Black American culture. Unfortunately, some soul food is not healthy and actually causes very serious health problems, okay, throughout this country. Typically, soul food diet involves large amounts of meat, fat, salt, sugar, and low calcium foods and fiber. All high risk factors and contributors of health-related diseases, including obesity, heart disease, hypertension, stroke, and oftentimes a result in eating this type of diet actually can lead to stroke and heart attack. Many African Americans typically choose foods such as fried chicken, barbecued ribs, baked macaroni and cheese, sugary fruit drinks, and sweets such as sweet potato pie, which are typical of soul food meals. Now, although the typical soul food diet is not very healthy, it is possible to make it healthy. Any person, regardless of the ethnicity or the culture, can come down with high blood pressure. So it's not related just to just one particular ethnic group. What is blood pressure? Blood pressure is a measure of force of blood flowing through our blood vessels when the heart contracts to pump blood and when the heart rests between heartbeats. Definition of high blood pressure by the CDC is very interesting because it says when the heart pumps blood through the arteries, the blood puts pressure on the artery walls. This is known as blood pressure, okay? Blood pressure is usually expressed in terms of the systolic or maximum pressure over the diastolic minimum pressure in millimeters of mercury. During physical examination, blood pressure is one of the vital signs measured along with heart rate, respiratory rate, oxygen saturation, and also body temperature, okay? Blood pressure of about 120 over 80 millimeters. This is called, actually, is listed as the normal average resting blood pressure in a healthy adult. However, it's actually called the mean blood pressure, meaning that if everyone in here, if I took the blood pressure of everybody in here, which would be different for every individual, and divided it by the number of individuals in the room, it would average out to 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury. That's called the mean blood pressure, okay? But everybody's blood pressure will be different. Another thing to remember is that blood pressure is not consistent. It changes throughout the day. It changes depending on your mood, how you're feeling, the activity level, whether you have a disease or some kind of health disease, or also whether you remain inactive. And people who tend to be inactive or sedentary have an increased risk of having high blood pressure. And that's important for us to understand. Diet and lifestyle are among the important risk factors for developing hypertension. Now, people don't think about it that way, but how you live your life has a lot to do with it. How many of you know, have you heard this fact it's said that if you have somebody in your family, close relative with high blood pressure, you're going to come down with high blood pressure? That's not necessarily true. It's the lifestyle that you choose, the diet, which includes diet, whether or not there's a lack of exercise or if a person is involved in regular exercise. These are factors that actually determine whether or not a person is going to develop hypertension. What do blood pressure numbers mean? Well, blood pressure is written like a fraction, and it's measured using two numbers, the systolic, which is the upper number, and the diastolic, which is the lower number. If a blood pressure measurement reads 120 systolic and 80 diastolic, you would say 120 over 80, or write it 120 over 80 millimeters of mercury. What are normal blood pressures? Now, that's important to understand. A normal blood pressure is less than 120 over 80. Many people find it difficult to believe. In fact, one number that's probably closer to normal is 110 over 70, okay? And as we get older, we find that that number tends to change. Hypertension or high blood pressure has little to do with a personality. Many people think their personality has a lot to do with having high blood pressure. It might make some contributions, but it's not the determining factor. Your age has something to do with it as well, because as we get older, we tend to have a higher blood pressure. And why? Because the elasticity in our blood vessels tends to be reduced. So they're not as easy to expand, okay? That also causes an increase. The lumen or the hole in your blood vessels, like your arteries or veins, tends to decrease because it clogs up with cholesterol or some other deposits of fatty tissue. Previous guidelines from the American Heart Association, the American College of Cardiology, and other health organizations set the threshold for diagnosing high blood pressure at one time, it was 140 over 90 for people younger than 65. 150 over 80 millimeters of mercury for those 65 and older. This meant that 70 to 79% of men aged 55 and older in this country were diagnosed with hypertension. And they realized that there were some mistakes here. Why did they make the change? The blood pressure measurement values were too high and not in keeping with realistic clinical data. So they had to make some alterations. In the year 2017, which is just a few years ago, new guidelines from the American Heart Association, American College of Cardiology, and 9 other health organizations got together and realized they need to make some change. So they lowered the numbers of the diagnosis of hypertension back to 130/80 millimeters of mercury, and higher for all adults. So if your blood pressure is 130/80, some people would call that early stage of hypertension. They used to call it pre-hypertension. We now know if you have that number, you're not pre-hypertensive, you are hypertensive, okay? Let's go on. Here is a diagram, the latest diagram that came out with the American Cardiology Association, American Heart Association, showing what normal blood pressure is. Normal blood pressure, and I don't like to use the word normal too often. I like to use the word acceptable, because in healthcare, there are a range of terms or a range of numbers that are acceptable for a healthy condition. So normal, I say acceptable is less than 100 millimeters of systolic millimeters of mercury and less than 80 diastolic millimeters of mercury. If it's elevated, it's 120/100 to 129 systolic and less than 80 millimeters of mercury if it's diastolic. High blood pressure range, stage 1. Now, stage 1 now is 130 to 139 millimeters of mercury for systolic and 80 to 89 millimeters of mercury for diastolic. Stage 2 is high blood pressure hypertension stage 2, 140 or higher. Now, this number 140 systolic used to be the first stage before they converted it back, okay? 90 or more high millimeters of mercury are diastolic. The next one is very, very, very important. Hypertensive crisis. If you know someone whose blood pressure is consistently in the range of 160 to 180, that person is the body's trying to tell you you're headed for a stroke or heart attack. So you need to get yourself checked out very quickly. It's very, very important. Now, some things are very, very important. Hypertension is known as the silent killer. Why? Because during the early stages of development of hypertension, you usually don't have any signs or symptoms. You have no idea what's going on in your body. But if you take your blood pressure, and I recommend every last person in here, you need to take your blood pressure on a regular, at least once a month. Know what your blood pressure is. Because if you find your blood pressure in any of the range of the numbers we have here, you need to make sure that you get to see a physician as quickly as possible, because there's some things that are actually affecting you right away, and you may not even know it. In children, normal blood pressures are lower than that of adults, okay, because every country in the world has a different parameter they use for determining blood pressure in children. Other factors can influence person's blood pressure, variations such as the age, your gender, level of physical activity, diet, and lifestyle. All of these are factors that can contribute to blood pressure. As adults age, blood pressure tends to rise and diastolic pressure tends to fall. This is not normal physiology. Get yourself checked out. Go to see a physician. Go to a clinic. In the elderly, blood pressure tends to be above the normal adult range, principally because of reduced arteries flexibility. We said that earlier. In addition, an individual with blood pressure varies with exercise. So if you exercise on a regular basis, you will find, and we're going to talk about this later in the week, talking about effective exercise that can have on reducing or lowering and even eliminating blood pressure, high blood pressure. We're going to also they've been talking about diet. Diet has a significant contribution to whether or not a person develops hypertension as well. Your emotional reactions. Do you get enough sleep? We're going to talk about that too this week. Digestion, time of day, and the circadian rhythms. We're going to talk about circadian rhythms as we talk about insomnia and sleeping later on this week as well. In people with hypertension, tension within the blood vessels is greater and makes the heart work harder. Here to you, over to this side here, you will see a diseased artery. And the yellow tissue there is a buildup of fat in the tissue, okay? You see that. And it leads to high blood pressure and eventual blockage of the coronary arteries and a heart attack. Conditions in the heart, main blood vessels, you can develop arteriosclerosis, blood clots, and also if it's a significant amount, the vessels can actually develop spasms. Hypertension is called a silent killer, as we just mentioned. And it's important to understand that the sooner you determine if you have hypertension, to do something about it, because you can do something about it, okay? It's very, very important. Don't let yourself think that you can't do anything about it to change it or make adjustments in that. It can lead to heart attack, stroke, kidney failure, vision problems, and even blindness and even death. These are the picture at the bottom actually shows you how it actually developed, how the atherosclerosis actually develops. Initially, a person with hypertension may feel nothing, may not feel anything, and they think there's nothing wrong. Many high blood pressure is insidious, meaning it takes a period of time. It doesn't develop overnight. It takes a period of time before you develop hypertension. In fact, some people can develop, most people who develop it over a period of time, and it starts at an earlier period in life. But it can trigger damage in these following organs: in the brain, which can lead to stroke; in the eyes, can lead to blindness, heart attack; blood vessels will get clogged up; and the kidneys. This is why sometimes many people who have hypertension also develop kidney failure. And it's very, very important for you to understand this. And we're going to tell you a little later on this week how water can play a significant part in helping you not to come up with kidney failure, okay? High blood pressure can often lead to heart attack and failure and stroke and kidney failure. There are some risks for problems caused by high blood pressure, and I'm not going to go through these individually, but just you can see that there are a number of things that can actually happen that can cause a person to contribute to the development of hypertension. Increased workload or circulatory system. When several faucets are open and running water, pressure flows out at a lower pressure, but clogged arteries are like a clogged pipe in your home, have greater pressure, and if all the water is flowing through a simple faucet, pressure gets still higher. Sodium. This is why we tell people to reduce their salt intake, because salt can contribute to high blood pressure, okay? Sodium elevates blood pressure and causes fluid retention. You find a person who has high blood pressure also has swelling in the lower extremities oftentimes, okay? And elastic arteries have high cholesterol and plaque buildup, scarring, smaller opening or lumen in the arteries. What happens in the body when blood pressure is high? Over time, increased work by the heart can result in damage to the heart muscles and valves in the heart. The damaged tissues can result in heart failure. One other case I want to talk to you about, that's hypertension in pregnancy. There's a condition we call preeclampsia, and of course preeclampsia can actually develop into full-blown eclampsia. It's been I don't know if I would call it a privilege or not, but I had the experience of having to treat, early in my work and training, treat women who actually had preeclampsia, which developed into to full-blown eclampsia. It's characterized by increased blood pressure of above 160 millimeters of mercury, restings, and then a diastolic of 110 millimeters of mercury after about 20 weeks of gestation, during 20 weeks, which is actually well into the second trimester, okay? What they find is proteinuria. A woman in her pregnancy is spilling protein in her urine. She's got other elevated liver enzymes like transaminases and other things. Additional clinical findings are usually resolved in about 24 to 48 hours postpartum. After the baby is delivered, the blood pressure tends to go away, but she might develop hypertension later on in life. Narrow retinal arteries affects the eyes. Visual changes take place. Cerebral infarction or hemorrhage is the most common cause of death in women in situations like this. And of course, these are two elevated liver enzymes right here. Okay?
Thank you so much, Dr. Peterson. And now we are going to see how food can help us if we get on the right track with the farmer.
How many people do any gardening? All right, I see some hands. Excellent. Let's get growing. I'm going to talk fast because we've got a lot to go through. Soil fertility is where it all begins. If the soil is not well, is not your nutrients, your micronutrients, which are the smallest, your macronutrients, if they're not up to par in the soil, you're going to have a very, very difficult time growing. Today, with all the different things that are happening in the food market, food industry, with fresh as well as packaged, very important that everyone has a healthy curiosity as to what's happening, what's going on with what I'm eating. Hosea tells us that my people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. And we certainly don't want to be in the next category of rejecting knowledge. We're going to hear a lot this week in that regard. There's 12 textural classes of soil, just like linen, cotton, just like a fabric. You're feeling satin. There's 12 textural classes that are very distinct and very distinguishable with soil. It's important to know which one you have: sandy soil, clay soil, in your garden, in your growing area. The darker soil is, typically the richer it is. There's the scale. Clay is one of the largest classes of soil. Sand, one of the smallest, but sand is one of the most easiest ones to modify and to work with. Organic matter improves soils, the texture of soil, the ability for soil to retain water. The nutrient load for soil is also modified by the amount of organic matter that's in it. As elements decompose, it becomes bioavailable for plants to take up. Now, there's a reason for decline in soil fertility. If you've got soil and it's not fertile, it means that it's exhausted its supply of nutrients. And when that's happened, you want to continue to add more to your soil so that you get past that one. Now, there's 17 elements, some say 18, some say more, that are necessary for plant health, for plants to be healthy and to grow well. And there they are in front of you. All this has to do with the exchange rate of soil. Soil has to have, if you think of it as a bank, the more you put into the soil, the more the capacity soil has for plants to draw from, and it's called a CEC, or the cation exchange capacity. Now here is an example of poultry manure, dairy. Ogro is sewer sludge. I hope nobody uses that in their garden. Alfalfa and fish meal. But the best in that category for amendments in this scale, is the alfalfa. 58% of what's applied to the soil is available the first year. That's better than poultry, fish meal, or dairy, if those things are things that you would use. But alfalfa is very, very good. It also has a growth hormone naturally that's in it. To know what your soil has, the best thing is to take a condition report or a soil sample, so that send it into a laboratory. You get results. They'll tell you exactly where your markers are, what needs to be added, what's high, and how to ameliorate the soil so that you can move past that. Now, there's a lot of ways to get growing, but before you start growing, you really want to know the plants that you're going to choose, the seeds that you're going to choose. How large does that plant get when it's mature? Here's a scale for the root depth, because if I don't modify, if I'm going to use a pot, if I'm going to use a raised bed, if it doesn't have the depth to be able to accommodate the roots migration, then that plant's going to run out of food. If you see beets and lettuce, you see the scale as to how deep they'll go. Tomato plants, if they're healthy and you've got good soil, they will go to a depth of 10 feet. The roots will. Not necessarily that you have to have 10 foot of depth when you're growing tomatoes, but the more you have, the more food that plant is going to be able to look and search for and get. Now, when you walk into your box stores and you pick up soil, and the bag soil that's there, do it just like you're doing food. Flip that bag over and see what the ingredients are. And we'll go into this one more. I won't spend a lot of time here, but the fact that we have so much slaughterhouse byproducts, they find themselves into your growing area. Now, there's a lot of things you can do when you begin planting. You can do your own seedlings. Start them in a lot of different ways, doing your seedlings for planter boxes. You can do a raised planter bed. That one has, at the bottom of it, the first one I showed you has a barrier so that moles and voles and animals don't get in it. You can adjust the height of your beds, get young people involved in it. If you've got a lot of wildlife, you can enclose them like that one. Anyway, pots you can do growing in pot. Now these, for all the ladies here, these pots have been done by a single young lady, and she's doing excellent in her growing. But pots work out well, containers work out very, very well. You can do companion planting, you can do a lot of different things in one. You see beets and eggplant in that one. You've got onions and bell pepper together. In a small planter bed, look how much is growing in one planter bed. If the soil is well, we've got vertical plants going on one end. Melons are growing on one end of it. Other plants are growing in the interior of it. These melons are growing vertically. Those happen to be crane melons. That's from that little small bed you see. These are melons that came off of one section. Now, as you continue to look, the next one are cucumbers. This happens to be a painted serpent, excellent cucumber, never bitter, very, very nice in salads. Melons growing vertically. Now, all these garden scenarios translate into commercial growing, and that's what they look like on a commercial scale. Cucumbers, vertical, commercial, but otherwise nobody's doing that one. But this is what we do. Oftentimes, when you have a lot of wildlife, I mentioned this in a small group. When you've got a lot of wildlife growing, the nice thing to do is to put sunflowers in for them, because at the end of the season, birds come through. This is one row that I did for my garden. It's about 300 feet of sunflowers to be able to manage as well as growing stuff in the field. But as the sunflowers get up and they start growing, they provide a food source for birds, a food source for other animals, and they will leave yours alone because there's so much. Now, I had so many of these big dollar-sized sunflowers. I decided to take a bunch of them, put strings in them, take them to one of the nursery centers and sell them for bird feeders. And almost every nursery center took them. They said, okay, we'll take some of this. All right, I'm going to stop there. Greenhousing, of course, is always a great one. Basil. Okay. I'm rushing through. In your greenhouses that you do, we have grown a lot of basil. Basil is one plant inside of a greenhouse that will do very, very well uncooled. It's an Asian plant. It loves heat, and basil is used almost every day by a lot of restaurants. Some of you that use basil a lot, pesto is a tremendous one. In the wintertime, we have to use lights because you just don't have enough. You don't have enough sunlight in the wintertime. But tomatoes, excellent for the greenhouse. Carrots, lots and lots of carrots. This is the farm was growing with lots of carrots there growing. But there's so much that you can do with vegetables, so much you can do on a small scale, on a large scale, but must get going. The conventional foods, the insecticides, the pesticides that are used on the foods now, they're getting so many people sick, and many people have no idea what it is. If you're eating a conventional diet, you must make some changes. Eating conventional vegetables with insecticides. Don't wait. Let's get started.
Amen. That was very nice, right? Amen. So we are going to do our sing-along, but tonight we're not going to do the sing-along. We're just going to watch the video. Is that okay? And then tomorrow night, hopefully, we'll get to sing along with this next song. So this song that Charles Huggerbrooks is going to sing, it's from our program that's on Hope Channel, and it's called To You It Shall Be From Me. So God bless you as you listen to this song on health.
God said, behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. And God said, behold, I have given you every herb-bearing seed, which is upon the face of all the earth, and every tree in the which is the fruit of a tree yielding seed. To you it shall be for meat. Genesis 1 verse 29. To you it shall be for meat.
Strawberries, anyone? And now we are going to, you've heard a lot. We're going to try to summarize this and address specifically, is your heart about to attack you? Preventing and reversing atherosclerosis, cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes. And the usual disclaimers: we are not intending to replace your physicians or your healthcare provider, nor to prescribe or diagnose specific medical conditions. However, it's our prayer, and we can confidently assure you that as you take responsibility for your health and well-being, the knowledge gained will add immeasurably more happiness and, God willing, perhaps many more years to your life. So, let's see if we can get. Would you like to see take a trip inside your heart to see what it looks like? How many of, I know some of you have seen this trip before, but some of you haven't. Who would like to see inside your heart to see what things actually look like? I can count a couple hands. Oh, I saw. Okay, I'm going to show you what your heart looks like. Okay, we're going to take a trip all the way through your heart. So just take a look at. There we go. Those are your blood vessels, and if you put all of your blood vessels together, your veins, your arteries, your capillaries, put them into one long string. You know how long that string would have to be? 70,000 miles. And so you can see those red blood cells that they are coursing through the veins and the arteries, bringing their oxygen and the food going on. And again, that's 70,000 miles of blood vessels. And now we're going to, they get so tiny, the capillaries, that the red blood cell has to squeeze through one at a time. Now we're going up the inferior vena cava, going towards the heart. That's one of those valves in your veins. Ladies, when they don't work, you get the varicose veins. And now we're going to be turning the corner in a minute as we're approaching the heart. We're going to turn around into the, going to first see the tricuspid valve. Isn't that pretty? Yeah, now we're moving into the right ventricle. Your heart beats, by the time you're 70 years old, your heart will have beat 2 billion times. Every week you pump enough blood through your heart to fill up a swimming pool. And if you're going to, and those valves are thin as tissue paper. Imagine making something, those valves that are thin as tissue paper work 2 billion times. Fearfully and wonderfully made we are. And if you're going to put all of the blood that your heart was going to pump by the time you're 70 years old, if you're going to put them into a drum barrel, you know how many barrels that you would need to put them? 1 million barrels to hold all that blood. If you're going to say, okay, let's load it on a train, all the blood your heart beats by the time you are 70 years old, that train would have to be 25 miles long. So that's inside your heart. And in summary, if you want to have perfect health, you're going to have perfect circulation. In fact, if you want to have perfect health, you really want to have heavenly health. A friend of mine, some of you may be acquainted with Dr. Milton Mills, shared this with me 20 years ago, and this is something you can find on the internet, but he put this together along with this poem. So we all want heavenly health, right? So you want to get heavenly health? So this is how it goes. So God populated the earth with broccoli and cauliflower and spinach, green and yellow vegetables of all kinds. So man and woman would live long and healthy lives. Well, Satan created McDonald's, and McDonald's brought forth the 99-cent double cheeseburger. And Satan said to man, you want fries with that? And man said, supersize me. And man gained pounds. Well, then God created the healthful fruits, so woman might keep her figure that man found so fair. And Satan brought forth chocolate, and woman gained pounds. Then God said, try my crispy salad, and Satan brought forth ice cream, and woman gained pounds. And then God said, I've sent you heart-healthy vegetables, and we talked about olive oil, yes, even better yet, just the olives, and with which to cook them. Well, Satan brought forth fried chicken in a bucket. And man gained pounds, and his bad cholesterol went through the roof. Then God brought forth running shoes, so man resolved to lose those extra pounds. Just eating a pound of Planters peanuts, for example. That comes in a little thing. You're eating it, watching a movie or a ball game or something on television. You could finish that little thing, and then you say, I'm going to exercise afterwards. For that little thing, if you're going to exercise, you're going to have to exercise 17 miles to burn up the calories. So God brought forth the running shoes, and man resolved to lose those extra pounds. Ha ha ha. Satan came along, and what did he do? He brought forth cable TV with remote control so that you wouldn't even have to get up to change channels between ESPN and ESPN2. And man gained pounds. So God says, oh, you're running up the score, devil. So God brought forth the potato, a vegetable naturally low in fat and brimming with nutrition. One potato, whole potato, 80 calories. That's all. Well, Satan peeled off the healthful skin. He salted and sliced the starchy center into chips, and he deep fried them, and he created sour cream dip also. So now this 80-calorie potato is 1,000 calories by the time you're finished. And man clutches remote control and ate the potato chips swaddled in trans fat and cholesterol, and Satan saw it, and he said, it is good. And man went into cardiac arrest. That's what it looks like. In case you see where the blockage is, that's a heart, and that's the artery that got blocked. And you can see the scar tissue from the result. In case you see it, that's pointed out where the scar tissue is. And if it looks like anything, it's just a coincidence. But someone has said the more often you go through the golden arches, the quicker you get to the pearly gates. So then God in his infinite mercy sighed, and he created quadruple bypass surgery and coronary stents, and Satan created insurances that don't want to pay for them. Okay? And there is a heart surgery. So then, bottom line, perfect health depends on perfect circulation. Which of these would you rather have? The pills, the stent, the surgery, or the fruit? A heart attack, or a heart, Dr. Peterson pointed out, is when you have an infarction, a myocardial infarction, the muscles starved for blood because those arteries that you see there, those little tiny arteries, they get blocked, and that's what causes a heart attack. That's an example of a patient that I did that was coming with a massive heart attack. And then if you get to the hospital right away, we can put in a stent and open up that blocked artery. Right after I do that, I go right to the head of the table and tell them I got good news and I got bad news. The good news is your artery is open, you're going to live. The bad news is I didn't cure anything. Because what I do in the hospital doesn't cure anything. And unfortunately, a lot of cardiologists tell patients that they're fit to go, and they never give them the other part of the message that, no, we didn't cure anything. We bought time, okay? Every 30 seconds, a person in America dies from cardiovascular disease, of which, when it comes to heart attack, that translates to one person every minute, okay? And of the deaths due to coronary artery disease, half of them occur within an hour of symptoms before the patient can reach the hospital. And again, 25 to 33% of them are sudden death, okay? The very first symptom for 1/3 of all heart attacks that occur each and every day, the first symptom is instant death. So if you're waiting on symptoms, you're taking a chance, okay? The usual symptoms, they are feeling like a pressure or a heaviness in your chest or an elephant sitting in your chest, but it may not be that way, especially for women. They may have weird symptoms that we have to be attuned for. And any symptom that comes on with stress or with exertion and goes away when that's no longer happening. Like if you're walking and you feel a toothache, that's your heart. You don't need to see the dentist, you need to see a heart doctor. In fact, I had a patient with an emergency heart attack that came in just from the dental office, just after they pulled their tooth for the toothache, but it was a heart attack. Not too good, especially when you have to give blood thinners, so they're bleeding for a while. You could also just feel other symptoms, just sick in the stomach, pounding in the chest, hard to breathe, sweaty, just anxious, and a lot of people, especially if you have diabetes, you will have no symptoms at all, many times, because the nerves in diabetic folks sometimes don't work when it comes to pain. Okay, so symptoms are good, but those are some of the symptoms you can look for, and sometimes you may not have anything. Okay, so what should you do? If you're in a place where you can't call 911, and if you have the cayenne pepper, as was pointed out, you can do that, but obviously you want to call 911 as soon as possible, and you could take an aspirin if you have one. Okay, those are things to do. Here's what an artery looks like as you're growing up. At birth, and you can see as the walls as you go along, older and older, the cholesterol plaques build up, and the inner lining of the arteries, they're called endothelial cells. They have some special factories that I'll mention in a moment. But these plaques that come on are a result of the cholesterol buildup, along with the fats. And the problem we are finding nowadays is that the fat buildup and the cholesterol buildup, when you see those where it says 70 years old, that's now happening in kids that are 20 years old. I had a patient I mentioned earlier yesterday with a heart attack that was 18 years old. His favorite food was pepperoni pizza. So, God's perfect will, you heard just sung, and then God's permissive will, you can see the difference between what God says you shall eat and what you may eat. And when it comes to looking at the lifespans, you can see that it makes a tremendous difference from 900 years down to 70 years of age, just in large part from the diet. We've looked at the Adventist health studies yesterday, so I won't repeat that. But we have a list of the major risk factors that cause heart disease and stroke. And you can see at the very top of the list, you see the word cholesterol, public enemy number one, cholesterol. The big four are diabetes, smoking, cholesterol, and high blood pressure. They're all critical. Number 5 on the list would be triglycerides. But the big four, cholesterol being number 1, and then the diabetes, smoking, and high blood pressure. Those are risk factors that we can change. There are some things you cannot change, your genes, your age. So what has happened with the diet is that with time, as you get in a more affluent society, instead of eating more foods that are from the ground, we are processing the foods more and more so that instead of eating the corn, we are eating Doritos. Instead of eating potatoes, we're eating Pringles. Instead of eating beans, we are eating porterhouse steak. And the starch being replaced by fat, sugar, animal protein, and the grains appear as white flour in donuts, pies, cakes, the typical SAD diet, standard American diet. What's the problem why cholesterol reaches the top of the list? Cholesterol, regular plain cholesterol does nothing to your heart. It's totally inert. But when it gets oxidized, it becomes the biggest terrorist, okay? And it doesn't take much. Oxidized cholesterol fed to rabbits and monkeys produce dramatic changes within 24 hours. 24 hours made the difference. The pure one, you could have a cholesterol level of 10,000. If it's the pure cholesterol, then it's not going to affect you. But if it's oxidized, you're in trouble. So the question is, how does it get oxidized, right? I thought you'd never ask. Okay. Well, oxidation is a process that requires oxygen. Oxidation, oxidize, right? And so whenever foods that contain cholesterol are combined with the oxygen in the air, that's when you get into trouble. But it doesn't have to be in the air. If the oxygen is just running around in the bloodstream, that could be. And there are different things that can lend the oxygen to the cholesterol. So there are an estimated 32 oxidation products that we found in such foods. Here are the top 4 foods with the highest oxidized cholesterol content. Number 4 is lard. Number 3, Parmesan cheese. Number 2 are pancake mixes. And again, pancake mixes, why? Because these pancake mixes, you just add water. What do they have there? They have the eggs, which is rich in cholesterol. They have the milk that provides the milk sugar, and sugar is the biggest contributor for oxidation. So the sugar and the eggs it's a deadly combination because of the cholesterol component. So and they're sitting on the shelf for a long time, who knows how long. So there's a lot of time to get the mischief going. Number 1 on the list, though, are custard mixes. Anybody know what custard mixes mean? That's the official word for ice cream. Okay? Yeah, without ice cream, I wouldn't have a job. Okay, here are the foods. It's very easy. People say, I need to see a dietitian to know what has cholesterol. Any food that has a face and a mother has cholesterol. That's very simple. Okay? If it has a face or a mother, it has cholesterol. And so if you would look down the list, we don't have time to go through all of it, but basically if you look at 3 ounces, your body needs 50 milligrams of cholesterol every day. And this is on your handout, so those of you here, you'll get a chance to get it. Your body needs 50 milligrams of cholesterol. Your cholesterol is an important part of your body's needs. And so your liver makes all the cholesterol you need. But so if you ate 50 milligrams of cholesterol, then your liver just won't make any that day, unless you have the genes that the factory can't get shut off. So suffice it to say, 3 ounces of, if you look at beef, it's 3 ounces runs around 90 milligrams. Okay, so almost double what you need. 3 ounces of chicken, 90 milligrams. There's no difference between chicken and red meat when it comes to cholesterol. They are both equally deadly. The only reason why chicken got a pass is because it has less fat. But again, remember, fat is not the main problem. The cholesterol is. So I try to encourage my patients to stop eating chicken, or to cut it down at least, not just the red meat. But eggs have double the amount of cholesterol, as 1 egg has 200 and something milligrams of cholesterol. And if you like to eat chicken liver, that's 600 milligrams of cholesterol, enough to last you a month. On the other hand, foods that go in the ground, like beans, 0 cholesterol. So if it's plant-based, you're doing good. The biggest problem we have in our community is the Mexican tea diet. Almost 80% of the patients that have heart attacks in my community, they're on the Mexican tea diet. And I'll ask them, or if they have diabetes, they're on the Mexican tea diet. So I ask them, are you on the Mexican tea diet? And I said, no. I said, oh. Then you say, do you know what it is? And I said, I have to tell them, yes, the Mexican tea diet. Tacos, y tamales, y tostadas, y tortas, y taquitas, y tripas, y entonces tequila. All fatty foods with a lot of cholesterol and fat. So that's where the extra fat will be giving you the diabetes, and the cholesterol giving you the heart attack. Okay? Now, when we look at the foods God gave us, Dr. Joy talked earlier about the proteins and the beans. There's one reason why this is near and dear to my heart, because the best heart food is going to be beans and lentils, and all of the different bean family, and the lentils. For a heart standpoint, one is they help to lower your cholesterol, but even more importantly, the walls of your heart, the inner linings of your heart, they have a factory these endothelial cells that make a compound called nitric oxide. Nitric oxide is the most powerful vasodilator known to man. It doubles your arteries, just like that. It's also the most potent chemotherapy. It just kills cancer cells right and left. Okay, so it is a very important ingredient. This nitric oxide is depends on a certain protein called L-arginine, and you'll find this abundantly in beans and lentils. So, you know, some of the meat has it too, but this is the best way to get it, because the meat stuff comes with other things that neutralize the benefits of just having the L-arginine that you find in the lentils. When the body has this, it makes this nitric oxide. It gets used up in nanoseconds, so you can't even measure it. But it works wonders. So I'm always trying to get my patients on simple foods like beans and lentils, unless you are a dialysis patient, in which case this is not going to work for you, because there are some things in there that you can't dialyze out. But from the rest of us, nitric oxide is key to helping your arteries to stay open, especially when you're under different kinds of stress. In addition to that, we showed earlier, I think Dr. Peterson did, about the whole grains. From the Adventist Health Study, what they found is people who are eating whole grains compared to eat white bread, their risk of heart attack, for those who are eating whole grains, their risk of heart attack gets cut in half. Just eating whole grains. The risk of stroke, again, instead of having to do a surgery to clean out the arteries, you just eat whole grains. That's a non-starter. Which would you rather have, them cut your neck or just eat some whole grain bread? You know, I mean, no, I'm sorry. I have some dear surgery friends. Please eat the other stuff. They have to stay in business. Okay? Fruit and vegetables from the Framingham study. Same thing. High amount of fruit, the risk of stroke gets cut in half. You get the picture? Total mortality, again, the risk gets cut in half. We talked about cabbage yesterday. They just found that just the tiniest amount of the cruciferous vegetables, 100 micromoles, they have a thing called indole-3 carbamide, which lowers the cholesterol transport there inside your liver. So just eating the cabbage or the broccoli stuff will lower your cholesterol. I mean, how much, and when it comes to real superfoods for lowering cholesterol, chia seeds and flax seeds, they are at the top of the line, okay? I did mention one thing I need to add for yesterday. I was talking about cabbage, how important it is. This is cooked. Cabbage does not help you. It has to be steamed or raw. And you can't take too much raw, because if you overdose on it, it's going to slow your thyroid down. But you still need to take a fair amount, okay? And Dr. Ralph talked earlier about hypertension and salt. You know, humongous cause for 1.65 million deaths annually around the world due to too much salt. Okay? Other things are important, such as water. And again, they found from the Adventist Health Study, folks that were drinking 5 or more glasses of water helped to cut the heart attack down. And it's even better if you have one in the afternoon or towards the evening. So you may land up going to the bathroom, but which would you rather, the bathroom or the emergency room? Okay? We're going to deal a little bit more with exercise tomorrow, but in most studies, just leave you this one kernel. Most studies, physical activity is the best predictor of longevity. This is from a Harvard study. Every hour you exercise increases your lifespan by 2 hours. So exercise is critical. Of all of the stuff to make your heart, to reverse heart disease, I would say 60 to 70% is your diet, 30% is going to be your exercise, and the 10% more are other factors like water, and I'll deal with a few more, like sunlight. sunlight, we are finding out some incredible things now about sunlight. The infrared rays, when they hit your skin, and the infrared goes through your clothes, that's the nice thing about it, it affects the arteries that can far in beyond beneath your skin to increase the production of the same nitric oxide. So walking in this, getting some of the sunlight will increase your production of nitric oxide. And what's even greater is that when you're walking near the trees bounce off the infrared, they absorb the green light, and they throw off the infrared. So you get to enjoy the shade plus the infrared, plus they're making the oxygen that's called negatively charged oxygen that makes your mind clear mentally and you feel better. So the walk where there are trees and getting the sunlight, you're doing wonders to your heart and to your mind at the same time. I'm going to tell you this story about Mr. I Hate Beans. Let me just go back. So I had this patient that came in for a heart attack. He'd had, when he came in for the heart attack, we went ahead and did the stent, opened his arteries, checked him out. His lifestyle was really in a mess. He was eating pretty bad. He was eating, just junk food. He was eating, smoking, and he was doing everything bad. So I just tell him, you have to, we talked about the lifestyle. And after a second or third heart attack, then he stopped smoking. But he still kept on with the junk food. We did more angioplasties. And then finally, he kept his diet. He just talk about change. He did not get to that part where he felt he needed to change. But finally, he was around that point. But by then, he was taking, he'd had his bypass surgery, and now he's taking 50 to 100 nitros a day. Because just to walk to the bathroom, he had to take 2 nitros. To come back from the bathroom, another 2 nitros. He was just eating it like candy. And so he comes to my office and said, Doctor, I can't do it. I can't go anywhere. I can't even walk to the door without chest pain. Am I going to die? And I said, yes, you're going to die. And he says, really? I said, yes, I'm so sorry. You have to put your house in order, make sure your wife and everything, make your plans because you are going to die. He said, can't you ask the surgeon to do a bypass surgery and another one? I said, no. Yeah, well, I said, okay, I'll ask him, but I know he's going to say no. I asked the surgeon. He said I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole. With a 100-foot pole. He's just going to die before I even put him out to sleep. And I want to show you his arteries, okay? Here is a normal person. You can see the coronary artery on the left side. The arteries are nice and wide open. The artery on the right side, again, nice and pretty open. And then we do a left ventriculogram. You can see how the walls of the heart are moving pretty good. Here's Mr. I Hate Beans. I could not get him to eat any beans or eat healthy. So the artery on the left side, there's nothing there. It's pretty much gone. The artery on the right side is also gone. And all those wires you see are pacemakers and stuff that we had put in to try to keep him alive. Those are the bypasses that they are shut down. All 5 bypasses except that one artery, the left internal mammary artery. And if you look at where it plugs into his own heart, you can hardly see anything. No wonder he's taking 50 to 100 nitros a day. He doesn't have any arteries. So I told him, so he says, if I'm going to die, can I go home to visit my family and tell them goodbye? And he lived in the hill country in Mexico. I said, yeah, you need to go. I mean, you're going to probably die on the way there because your heart's so bad, but you're going to die here anyway. So, so take it, give it your best chance. And we had a prayer. I cried because I knew I'd never see him again. He was crying too. And I just prayed that the Lord would take care of him. I mean, that's all I could do. And so we said goodbye, and he left. And 3 months later, the door opens, and there I see Mr. Hernandez. And I said, and I looked, I couldn't believe it. And when he comes in, the door opens, and he comes in walking like this. And his wife can't catch up with him. He's just walking so fast. I was afraid he was going to have a heart attack because I knew he can't walk. And I said, what? And he said, I'm back. I'm here. I'm good. I feel great. I said, wait a minute now. You're supposed to be dead. Now you're making me look bad. And his wife says, yes, he's going up the tallest hills. I can't keep up with him. And I said, no, 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 no. I had around 15 patients ahead of them, but I said, you come in. This is an emergency. And I sat him down, and I said, you got to tell me what happened. And he told me the story. He said, well, I did make the trip home. Thank God I made it. And he said, where we live in the hill country, he said, we are so poor. The only food they had to feed me was frijoles y lentejas, beans and lentils. And he said, where we live, we are so poor that nobody can afford a car or a taxi. So if I had to go anywhere, I had to walk. And he said, where we live, we are so poor, we don't even have a television. And I was just sitting on the couch every day, and I got so tired of the couch, I decided I'd go into the backyard and do some gardening. Sunlight, gardening, mental health, everything. And that was how he was able to come in, walking without the need for nitro, going up the tallest hills. The operating room. This is an open heart surgery. You can see a lot of equipment that we use. But you know the best surgical equipment that you can find in the operating room? I can tell you, it's the one you see there on your left. It's your knife and fork. Because if you know how to operate in your kitchen, then I don't have to operate on you in mine. So, you have some decisions to make, and we all do, as far as it comes to your diet, your exercise, and so on. There are some other areas when it comes to heart disease that we don't have time to dwell on tonight, but I have to mention them in passing. Getting upset is one way, surest way to increase your blood pressure and your heart health if you stay in that space, because it's going to increase your adrenaline and it's going to increase your blood pressure. The cortisol is going to put you on a path to having a heart attack or a stroke. I had one patient a long time ago in my early years at Hollywood Presbyterian, he came in. The story with him was simply, his next door neighbor had the television up too loud. So he banged in the apartment, and he bangs on there, turned it down, and he screams to the wall. And the neighbor can't hear what he's doing, so he turns it up. And so the guy bangs on it louder and louder and keeps banging. Turn that TV down. And the more he yelled through the walls of the apartment, the higher the television went up. So finally, this patient of mine, he got so upset, he loaded his gun, went next door to this neighbor with a loud television, banged on the door at the front door. The guy comes to answer the door, not suspecting, and the patient raises the gun to shoot, and he popped a blood vessel in his brain, and he never woke up. Hostility and heart disease. High anger compared to people with no anger, the heart disease relative risk is off the charts. Not just twice double, but almost three times as high. Worry and heart disease, same issue. The more you worry, the more you mess up your heart. In fact, we have a thing that we call broken heart syndrome. This is from people when they're going through particularly heavy stress, like a divorce or just a very stressful situation. I've seen that happen time and again. We actually call it Takotsubo syndrome, where the pressures of the stresses that you're on literally make your heart look like it's hardly moving. It looks like a heart attack. And it is a heart attack. And when you do the coronary arteries, they are clean as a bell from a broken heart. But there's someone else who had a broken heart. And we read that when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, he sweat drops of blood. When a person is on the cross, you know how long they took them to die? 3 or 4 days or a week? No one ever died on a cross in 6 hours. Why did Jesus die in 6 hours? Because the weight that he was carrying literally crushed his heart. Let me be more specific. The weight he was carrying for you for me, crushed his heart. If I had been the medical examiner that day and had to sign his death certificate, it's not just a song. He died of a broken heart, Takotsubo syndrome. He died for your weight and my weight. And I thank God that he was willing to say, Lord, if that's what it takes, I'll do it. That same Jesus, Dr. Jesus, by having carried that weight for us, now is able to help us carry the weights that we carry. And for many of us, this will be the weight that comes from the stresses of life, but it's also the weight that come from having failed time and again to try to make those changes in our heart, in our life, and we feel so burdened. I'm so thankful that he's not just a burden bearer, but he's a way maker and a life changer. And when it comes to changing the habits that we have, that's where we need to start, looking to Dr. Jesus. And the good news is, Dr. Jesus is in the house. Let us give thanks to our Father in heaven for having given us a doctor in the house. God bless. Now we are going to take some time for questions and answers, and then we'll have the Pastor Peter to come forward. Okay, so if you have your questions, let's see those hands raised, okay? If you have any questions. Okay.
So I have two questions. The first question is, I thought salmon is good cholesterol.
Salmon?
Yeah.
No. The reason why they advise salmon, well, the cholesterol level in salmon, you'll see it on the handouts, is around 60 milligrams. And your body needs 50. So it's because in fish, the cholesterol levels are between 50 and 60. Fish, from a heart standpoint, is generally considered a good heart food. So, and it has omega-3, which also makes it useful from a heart standpoint. As we mentioned yesterday, though, from a risk from a cancer standpoint, it does not help. In fact, it's not good from that standpoint. However, for my patients that, I'll encourage them, if they're going to eat meat, that the best meat they can eat is fish. Okay? So yes.
Okay. Sorry, my second question is about the cayenne pepper. Have you met anyone that's allergic to cayenne pepper? Because I'm highly allergic to stuff. So how do I know if I'm allergic to cayenne pepper? Would that be possible? Have you met anyone allergic to cayenne pepper?
Oh, well, Dr. Peterson just said that she's allergic to cayenne pepper.
Oh, okay.
So, that's yes, I guess. To your
You
question
can be
there, yeah.
allergic. Oh, okay. Okay,
And,
great. Thank you
I
so
mean,
much.
Yeah, many times you will find some people that are allergic to some food, have food allergies, and only way you'll find out is if you take it and then you have a reaction, and so then you have to adjust.
Okay, great. Thank you.
You ask about the fish, and some of the recent literature that's come out recently suggests that there's an association between eating fish and pancreatic cancer, particularly salmon, okay? So be very careful with that. Pancreatic cancer is one of those bad boys that only about 3% of the people survive. So if you have to, I think if you're looking for protein source or even omega-3 fatty acid source, look other than fish.
One other thing, too, about the fish, and that is one of the fish farms are really, really not good, where most of the stuff comes. And the other thing is, you ever heard of Fukushima? The radiation place? There's a lot of radiation. There's a lot of heavy metals and stuff for the food chain. So the fish is generally, as a whole food, a health food thing, it's not good. But people, when they ask me about the heart specifically, then I'd say, okay, this is a body of science that we have in there. But I advise them to move on to frijoles y lentejas. Next question.
My question is, well, I have a comment about the cayenne pepper. I might actually have cardiovascular disease, and one of my trips to the hospital, they gave me, from my house to the hospital, they gave me like 4 nitroglycerin tablets, and it wasn't working. And then another time when I was having the pain, I took cayenne pepper. I just a pinch under the tongue. The pain went right away. It was gone. And so I'm a witness to cayenne pepper. And my question was, being that I am a cardiovascular patient, the medications that I'm on, is there a way I've made some changes to my lifestyle and there's still more to go. Is there a way to get off the medication? Because I know some things, like they tell us, don't eat grapefruit with the medication, but grapefruit does the same thing as one of the medications.
You're going to have to find a physician who is knowledgeable with lifestyle medicine, and so they will know how to taper down your medication as you continue to improve, and then to bring in those other remedies that will benefit you other than the medication.
Because this is being recorded and live streamed, I'm not sure when the next lawyer is going to show up. So I can't say anything that will jeopardize my position. But I can just say in general, I've had, during the course of my near almost 45 years as a physician, a lot of patients that we've been able to successfully get them off their diabetes medicines, because it was reversed, and if they kept them on, they would die from the medicines. I've been able to get them off a lot of their blood pressure medicines. And even though this might be considered heresy by today's standards, I've been able to get a lot of them off their statins. And, but you have to be very careful, and as Ron said, you have to be doing this with someone who is familiar with the process, and there have been folks that I got them off for a while, and we're monitoring the numbers, and they started going the other way, and then we say, okay, you have to go back. So supervised, it is possible. And you know, with your consent and being aware of the risk, yea and nay. But again, each medicine comes with their own set of risks. Statins are a wonderful medicine that have saved millions of lives, and yet by the literature, it says that it does increase your chances of getting diabetes. So even though it's good for things, there's a baggage, and there are lots of folks that have liver troubles and other allergies that come from the statin. I just point one of those because that's considered a key important ingredient for people with cardiovascular disease. But if it's monitored and unsupervised and the person is on the appropriate lifestyle changes, one can gradually decrease some of these things, medicines, and eventually sometimes get them off. So it's good news. And medicine, yeah, we talked about, the nutrition, the exercise, the water, the sunshine, temperance, getting the rest, and most of all, trusting in God. It works. We are all, I'm talking right now because I happen to be the cardiologist here, but they will all give you testimonies of folks that have happened. They have extensive experience. I guess between all of us, comes up to more than maybe 300 years of experience, just about. Okay, and we can attest to that it is possible.
In the mornings, I like to take my dog out, let him out in the morning. Oh, it's not. In the mornings, I like to take the dog out and let him run around for a couple of minutes. but I like to move my chair over and sit in the sun. And half of the time I was there, I didn't know if I should open my shirt and let the sun hit me on the skin, or if it goes through the clothes, or how do I get the best out of that?
It goes through the clothes. Okay, the infrared goes through the clothes. So you can still get the benefit with your clothes off. You don't have to go to the Muscleman alternative. And that's good news.
Okay, it's 15 or 30 minutes.
Yes, the darker skinned you are, the longer you would probably need. And you're going to be getting that extra vitamin D. We haven't even had a chance to talk about vitamin D. We always used to think vitamin D was for the bones, and it is. But it turns out to be critical for the heart, for heart failure, and for and a whole bunch of other things, for cancer prevention. So the sunlight is a good thing, and yes, you should continue doing that. It would be nice to, you're doing that after you finish your walk, I imagine. Or it would be nice to combine it with other things too.
I will tell you that if you know that you have low vitamin D, I was told by a lifestyle physician that I should bare at least my legs and my arms. If you have low vitamin D, I was told by her that you will get higher results if you have some of your skin bare, especially if you have low vitamin D.
Thank you for that addition, because I'm thinking about the heart. The clothes on is good for the heart, but for the vitamin D part, yeah, you do need to show your semi-muscle man outfit. Thank you very much, Dr. Magna.
Mine is when you, I heard when you eat egg, if you have problem with cholesterol, you remove the red, the yellow, the yolk. Would that help, or is still bad if you are eating egg once a week?
I'm going to give this to the dietitian, but I needed to cover up my omissions. You're right. All of the cholesterol in the eggs is found in the yolk. So for a person who loves eggs, that has, well, the American Heart Association recommends only 1 or 2 eggs a week, the whole eggs anyway, because of the cholesterol issue. So if you love eggs, then you really do need to have the yolk removed most of the time, if you're going to go there. And sometimes eggs are medicinal for certain people. It serves a purpose because it has a lot of nutrients. So we're not here to condemn the egg industry per se. We're just trying to help you stay alive.
Yes, but not only just the eggs. If you eat foods that are rich in saturated fats, lots of pastries and so forth, it can also convert and increase your cholesterol. And you don't really need any of it at all. Your body does make its own. So if you can lighten up with the egg, take the yolk out. We say throw the yolk out or put it on the dog's back, or you can shine the hair or put it in your hair. That's the best thing to do with the yolk. And then you can use the white of the egg. Yeah. That has the protein. Yeah.
Okay, one more question. You see, the new guideline, maybe this one we saw here is different. The new guideline that we're using sometimes, it says blood pressure 150/90 is still on the normal range. You call Kaiser, they will ask you, is your blood pressure more than a 160/100? If not, just relax. So does it mean the 150/90 is not within normal range?
No, it's not in normal range. As a matter of fact, this is one of the reasons why in 2017 they had to go reverse back, because the numbers they had been using before to diagnose hypertension were actually too high. And what they found out is that actually what we consider acceptable or normal range of blood pressure is about 110 systolic over 70. I mentioned to you that everybody in here, if we were to take your blood pressure and then divide it by the number of individuals here, it would give us what is called a mean blood pressure, okay, which is about 120/80 millimeters of mercury, systolic and over diastolic. But everybody's blood pressure in here is different. But the 160/90 is considered now a stage, what we call, it's stage 3. Stage 3 hypertension, whereas before it was stage 2. You know, because they were using different parameters to actually determine hypertension. But now they realize it's important. That means that so many people, for instance, we said that 70 to 79% of men 55 and older were hypertensive. Well, that's not true. There are a significant number of people in our population do have hypertension, but you don't want the majority of the people having hypertension because the numbers are wrong. So they went back and they looked at the clinical data. And the clinical data suggests that the numbers that they had given people were actually too high, and that hypertension actually starts at a lower level. So, you want to say something?
Yeah. The reason why they tell you, don't call back until after that number is that's the number by their modality that they would say you need to start on medicines. It doesn't mean that it's a good number. It just means that they're not. Actually, what they're wanting to say is that by attending the Is There a Doctor in the House, you can get your blood pressure down to a reasonable number. So they're trying to not start treating you on pills till you reach a certain threshold. And that's why they gave you that cutoff number. But it doesn't mean that it is good. And that's unfortunate. They should have said it's high, but you don't need to start treating it with medicines. There's a lot you can do without, starting with the salt.
One of the things I suggest is everyone in here should take their blood pressure. If you're an adult, you should take your blood pressure several times a month. But one of the best times to take it is in the morning when you first wake up. When you first wake up, before you get out of the bed and get activity, it's good to have a sphygmometer or a blood pressure set right by your nightstand. You get up in the morning before you start moving around, because see, blood pressure is dynamic. It changes throughout the day, depending on age, gender, level of activity, all stress factors, all factors change. So when you take it in the morning, you probably had several hours of rest during the night. And you get up in the morning, that might give you a more adequate measure of what your blood pressure is. But it's going to change throughout the day. So it's important that you do that. I recommend everybody take their blood pressure on a regular basis, okay?
Another question.
Okay, so just going back to the sunlight question, is there a specific time of the day that's the best time to get sunlight?
Yes, up in the morning, up until about 10 o'clock in the morning is a good time to take your blood pressure. After you get between 10 and I think it's 2 or 3 in the afternoon, yeah. Sunlight, yeah, sunlight, I'm saying, yeah, sunlight. Then you may want to make sure that you are not out in the sun's rays at that particular time, because that's a higher level of radiation, and it might actually cause increased risk of skin cancer and other kinds of problems. So take it between in the sunlight in the early mornings of morning up until around 10 o'clock in the morning, okay?
Also, by that time, not only is it good time for the heart, but it's also up till 10 o'clock, the rays of the sunlight, when it hits your retina, it helps to produce melatonin, first phase of melatonin. Or melatonin is a two-part. We haven't talked about sleep yet, and we'll get to it, but melatonin is the factories that make it there is a two-step process, and the first step happens in the morning between up to 10 o'clock, and the light is what activates through the retina, that activates the factory. The second part comes on around 9, 10 o'clock at night in a dark room. Then the light turns out to be counterproductive, because if there's a lot of light on, say as in television light, you're actually starting to destroy your melatonin. So dark at 10 in the night and up by 10 to get the sunlight in the morning, and you're optimizing your sleep. Okay? And we didn't talk about blood pressure in relation to sleep, but that's something that's very well known. You go without sleep, and that will keep your blood pressure high the next day. Getting the sunlight helps to keep your blood pressure low for the next 24, 36 hours.
I hate to come in and be contradictory, but again, the doctor that I worked with, I had MS, And the doctor I worked with asked me, because of my darker skin, to get into the sun between 10 to 3. And she said that the darker skinned people are not as affected by the rays because we have the melanin that's a little protective. So the lighter the skin, the more problematic it is. But out with the darker skin, you don't have as much problems between 10 to 3. And she asked me to get out at those times because my vitamin D levels were so low.
I think your skin is on the lighter side, so for the darker folk. But yes, thank you for that caveat.
Dr. Palmer, you had mentioned that a burning sensation in your chest was a symptom of a heart attack. Is that not also a symptom of acid reflux? And how can you differentiate between the two?
Very good question. When I listed there the symptoms, I was putting up all of the different symptoms that could, well, not all, but many of the more common ones. And many a person has come in thinking they had acid reflux when they're having a massive heart attack. It happens a lot for inferior MIs for some reason, well, because it sits on the bottom wall like there, so it can mimic it. But it would be a part of the differential when you have burning, and this is burning in the chest, that it could be from your stomach or your esophagus, or gastritis if it's a lower down, or if it could be from the heart. One of the ways that you can tell is if the and this is not foolproof, but it's something that you could do out in the field. There are two things you could do. Number one is, if this comes on when you're walking or doing something that makes your heart work harder, if it comes on from that, it's your heart till proven otherwise. Okay? If you're feeling the burning and you're not doing anything, well, let me back up. If it's from the heart and when you stop doing whatever you're doing and it goes away, then that clinches it. You still need to do a stress test or not get worked up, but you can tell that way. The other thing that you can do is, and we do this often in the emergency room, is you have burning here, we're not sure, we give you some Maalox, Mylanta, we actually call it a GI cocktail. And they put a little Maalox or Mylanta, and sometimes they put a little viscous lidocaine, and you drink that. If it's from your stomach or your esophagus, it goes away just like that. And if it doesn't, it probably is something else. And in women, this is it's more often the case with women that they have these atypical symptoms.
Okay, so it's generally the activity that leads to the heart. And if it's happening when you're still or in inactivity, then it is acid reflux.
It's more often. There's one other thing you could do, which is a very, very, very simple test, actually, and that is just go lie down. If you lie down and it's acid reflux, the acid goes backwards into your esophagus and it gets worse. Okay, and the burning gets worse. If it's your heart and because you're lying down, it should probably get better. So there are a few little tricks of the trade.
Thank you.
I was just inquiring about blood pressure cuffs, because there's the wrist and the regular blood pressure cuff. So I wondered, is there a difference? Which one is more accurate?
From my experience, I've found the ones that come around here the best. The ones around here are halfway good. The ones that are on the finger are a waste of money. And so the farther down you get, the more chances that there's arterial obstruction, so the blood pressure is not quite real. And if you got the one here around the wrist for a Christmas gift, then use it. You know, one of the things that's a good thing, no matter what the blood pressure cuff is that you have, I would just suggest this to anybody, even if it's the one up here. One of these times, if you have to see your doctor, take the cuff with you. Check it, right around the time they're checking your blood pressure and compare them. And if theirs is off, tell them they need to get a new one. No, they're
Another thing you want to keep in mind, if you're using the one that's battery operated, you want to get your batteries checked on a regular basis. You might want to check them monthly, replace them. In my personal experience, I find the manual sphygmomanometer more accurate than the battery operated ones. But you can use both of them and without any problem. But get the one that's battery operated, get it checked on a regular basis to make sure the battery is functioning properly.
We have time for one more question. Go ahead.
I'm interrupting your consultation, so
Could you hold the mic a little closer? Yes.
Now I'm talking about this gentleman. This is in my garden. I got almost 3 years. My pomegranate, they don't come in a good fruit. What is going to be happening? It's 3 years so far.
When is the last time you fertilized your trees?
By 6 months ago.
What did you give them? What did you apply?
Oh, only 4.
Huh? Only Home Depot fertilizer. Okay. Did you fertilize, what time of year did you fertilize them? Do you know? You remember? Okay. Typically with fruit trees, if you should fertilize them right after bloom, post-bloom, and then as the fruit just starts to merge and develop, you want to feed them again. And then right at harvest, you want to feed them again. Most fruit trees lodge and they store the fertilizer in the buds. The tree wakes up with what you gave it last season. So that's why it's very important to have your fruit trees on a feeding program, because they're going to store that fertilizer, hold it in the buds, and then when that tree wakes up, it's going to use that energy to now burst after post-bloom to start developing the fruit. And then you want to continue feeding it in that regard. If your trees still aren't producing, there's two things that you can do. You can take a leaf sample of a new leaf and send it in, and labs can tell you exactly what's missing in that tree, as well as take a sample within the drip line of the tree. Wherever the canopy is the widest, within that circle, take a sample in that circle and send it in to the lab. You want to have about a shovelful. Take a shovel, and at the bottom of the tip of the shovel, after you plunge it in the ground, take that soil, take about a cupful, and send it into a laboratory. It could be wet or dry. They're going to dry it out to be able to know what it is. So there's two ways that you can figure that out. You're welcome.
Who's the person?
For the fruit trees, for the samples, where's the best place to send I don't know where to find a soil testing place.
There's quite a few soil laboratories throughout the United States. The best thing to do is to call your university extension service and find out if they're taking samples, if they're able to do samples locally. Sometimes extensions services get grants from the Farm Bill, and they're able to do them with very low cost. If not, they can direct you to a soil laboratory that's in your area. Typically, they'll turn those samples around within 24 hours via email. Once they get them and they start working on your sample, in 24 hours they can tell you what it is. And then they'll give you the paper later. Yeah.
Well, wasn't that a wonderful presentation tonight? I know I've been blessed, and I trust all of you have been blessed by all your incredible questions. I'm thankful for this evening's presentation on hypertension. As some of you remember, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I had a sharp experience with hypertension myself recently. It turns out that for me, anytime I take an antibiotic, somehow I get hypertension, you know. And it takes me, I've got to make sure when I take an antibiotic, I take probiotics so that my body doesn't get hypertensive. And when I went to Zimbabwe for 2 weeks, I got sick, and they gave me an antibiotic. And so taking that antibiotic caused me to, a couple weeks later, my blood pressure went off the charts. And I went out and bought a bicycle. And I started riding like crazy because I thought I just needed more exercise. And I tell you, I've never felt better. And the good news is that when I ride and my heart rate goes up, I don't feel any pain. That must mean I'm healthy. I rode 15 miles one day, the next day I rode 16, and then the other day I rode 20 miles. And it's an incredible experience, and I felt my legs getting stronger. And I ride early in the morning when the sun is coming up. So I get all that blue light with the infrared and the sun's rays and the vitamin D. It's too cold to expose my skin to the air, you know. I'm a Canadian, but I'm not going to be that crazy. But I plan to go out on the beach and get more sunlight in the afternoon and stuff like that. So I'm thankful for all this incredible information about health. Aren't you thankful tonight? Isn't God good to give us such wonderful knowledge and wisdom so that we can know how to take care of our health? And I trust that as you implement this information in your life, in your family, in your home, day by day, that God is going to continue to move in a mighty way to bring healing into your body. You know, everything that God has given us is for our health, for our healing. It's an expression of God's love, His mercy, His grace towards us. And I'm thankful for this team that's come here tonight to share this wonderful information. Now, don't miss tomorrow night, all right? Tomorrow night's presentation is Can You Hear Me Now? Now, I'm not sure what that's about. You might need to get your hearing checked. But can you hear me now? Tomorrow night. That's what it's going to be tomorrow night. So whatever you do, don't miss tomorrow night's presentation. And bring a friend. We've got some more brochure flyers out in the back. Hand them out, and I've got some flyers to give you tonight for the review of tonight's program so that you can have the information to take with you. Make sure you bring a friend tomorrow night, and let's come and enjoy the program again. We had quite a few, about 8 people watching online. We thank you for spending the time with us to enjoy and participate in this information, and we trust God will bless you as well as you implement it in your life. All right, let's just stand together as we close out with prayer this evening. Heavenly Father, we thank you for your love and mercy. Thank you for this amazing information that we've learned this evening, for the wisdom that you've given to our specialists and doctors from this amazing seminar. Is there a doctor in the house? Lord, we thank you for what you've given to us in nature. We thank you for all the ways we can take care of our health and make sure our heart is healthy. But ultimately, oh God, we thank you that Jesus had a broken heart so that we don't have to have one. Because his heart was broken, our heart can be healed and made whole. Because he endured the stress, we can be stress-free. Because he died, we can live. I pray, O Lord, that you will bless us tonight as people of faith, committed, dedicated to living a life of victory. I pray that you will give us the gift of your presence, your spirit in our hearts, so that we can be assured and rested and comforted and at peace, so that we don't have to stress ourselves out, that we need not worry, that we can relax and we can trust in divine power. And for all here this evening, Lord, as we seek to implement what we've learned this evening, may we be faithful. Give us wisdom. Give us insight. Help us to be humble and to be faithful and diligent so that we can reap the rewards of implementation of all that we've learned tonight. Lord, I pray that you'll fill us now with your goodness, your grace, your glory, and your grandeur. Keep us until that day comes when you return to take us home. Bless us now tonight. Give us a safe journey home. Bring us back tomorrow night to enjoy Can You Hear Me Now? I pray in Jesus' name and for his sake. Amen. Good night, everybody. Touch somebody next to you. Tell them God loves you, and I love you too.